America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
and by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.
Hi, I'm Jason Shoultz. We're headed to Georgia this week to meet a man whose work in the field determines what many of you find in your produce section of your grocery store.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gardner. We're taking you to Michigan this week. It's harvest time on a family farm run by some ladies who decided the best way for consumers to find just the right produce was to have them pick their own.
Hi, I'm Rob Stewart, and these are wild horses. We will take you to Northern California, where people from all over the world are coming here to do their part in protecting wild horses. It's all coming up on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
You know, Kansas is one of America's top cattle-producing states, second only to Texas in beef on the hoof. And if you get better at doing something the longer you do it, then one family has a track record that goes back a long, long way.
The Flint Hills are the last remnant of the tall grass prairie in North America. You have to go to the Serengeti in Africa to find grass like this.
Joe Hoagland's white hat makes him stand out, even in the wide open spaces of eastern Kansas. Hoagland and his family have been trailblazers in the ranching business since the late 1800s, and Flint Hills grass is just the beginning of this story.
This is very nutritious grass. There's a lot of calcium in this grass, which is good for growing bones and a lot of protein for developing the meat in the steers.
But Hoagland doesn't raise cattle like everyone else. He herds them with Hondas instead of horses, and this is livestock of a different color. Black Herefords, to be exact. This British breed of cattle is traditionally red.
There is this perception in America that a black-hided beef animal is the superior one. And we see that in the sale barns. You know, time after time, the red-hided animals are discounted.
So the Hoaglands did what people in agriculture do. They tried something new.
John, you got a good count of them, didn't you?
Breeding red-hided Herefords with the wildly popular Black Angus breed. After several generations of genetic work, ranchers learned how to capture that coveted black hair, but end up with a cow that's still a Hereford.
You get 10 cents a pound if it's a 500-pound calf. Well, that's $50. So, you know, it doesn't take long to add up. If you got 100 cows, well, you've produced a lot more income.
You know, black Herefords are new to cattle ranching. The first were bred back in 1994. Today there are breeders in more than 25 states, and that number is expected to multiply in the years ahead. The Hoaglands say this isn't just a black Hereford, it's a better Hereford.
You can see his father or his sire, his grandsire, and his great-grandsire.
The best are registered and their genealogy documented in detail. The Angus bloodlines add some kick to a meat that's an already popular choice for many consumers. And ranchers say the hybrids produce bigger offspring while consuming less feed.
We're seeing longevity in our cows that I find remarkable. A cow that's 10 years old that still has an udder like a young cow.
We produce more meat because the cattle are more productive and bigger framed and production techniques are improved.
more meat from fewer cattle. 28-year-old Dirk Hoagland knew from an early age he'd probably take over the family business. But instead of getting a degree in animal science, he mastered in business.
You need to have backgrounds in marketing, you need to understand finance, you need to understand how to manage people. Really, in a lot of ways, a cattle ranch is a factory.
A factory the family runs like a well-oiled machine. The Heartland grasses of the Flint Hills provide a rich pasture land for the Hoagland's unique cattle operation. It's land that served the family for more than a century, land the Hoaglands view as a window to their past and America's heritage.
The views and the vistas you see here are exactly what they saw in covered wagons moving west and traveling across the prairie. This is pretty much a pre-Columbian view of America.
Hereford cattle were brought to America in the early 1800s from their place of origin in Hertfordshire, England. Kansas is one of the states where the cattle population outnumbers the human population.
Being successful in farming today is a combination of hard work, technology, and keeping your finger on the pulse of consumer choices. Well, one farmer here in Georgia has had a great deal of success by paying attention to all three.
Bill Brim will tell you that he considers farming more than just a career. It's his passion.
Agriculture is a great, great life. You're doing great things for other people. You're feeding the nation. It gives you a sense of heroism. You know, it makes you feel like you're doing something for the country because you're feeding other people.
Since 1985, Bill and his partner Ed Walker have run Georgia's Lewis Taylor Farms. It was an operation co-owned by Ed's dad and by Bill's father-in-law. Originally, the farm grew row crops and tomato transplants. Today, the farm has grown to more than 4,000 acres and the crops have become much more diversified.
Squash, bell pepper, cucumbers, eggplant.
Miscanthus gigantus switchgrass to be burned as fuel.
Tomatoes.
Watermelons, cantaloupes, broccoli, collards, cabbage, kale, turnips, mustard.
And 18 million pine tree seedlings to be sold for reforestation. Yeah, that's diversified.
In addition to open fields, you'll find 500,000 square feet of crops under glass. Produce here makes its way to the supermarkets all across the eastern seaboard, and the farm sells vegetable transplants to other farming operations in the southeast. As with many operations, the complexities of modern agriculture demand more from farmers than in the past.
We have to be a financer. We have to learn the law. We have to be a mechanic. We have to do all kinds of things.
Harvesting multiple crops year-round, Bill employs hundreds of part-time laborers monitored through a federal program that legally provides him with foreign nationals as guest workers.
Which allows us to bring people in from Mexico or El Salvador or Honduras, or wherever we want to bring them in from.
Consumer demands have prompted a greater use of technology. The farm's hydro-cooling facility allows field crops to be temperature stabilized quickly for faster shipment and a longer shelf life. And equally important is a growing focus here and elsewhere on food safety issues.
We want anything to leave here that is perfectly safe, and even if it causes one sickness, that's one too many as far as we're concerned.
Supervisor Peter Germishusen says the program is twofold. One component involves a tracking system that allows clients and consumers to trace crops back to their source.
The 6 refers to Zone 6 from the North Farm. 16 refers to zucchini, and you can see they are green zucchini squash. So we are now in a position, each box has this on, and if somebody gave us that code, we could tell exactly which day that was picked from which field and what was on that field.
And almost down to the patch of land where it's at, right?
Exactly.
Additionally, from fields through processing, Food handlers are required to wear gloves. Packers and shippers wear hairnets, and the protocol demands regular hand washing. It's an agricultural investment of time and money.
If you think about nails and even in crevices in your fingers, there are a lot of germs which are carried from one place to another. And we try and cut down cross-contamination as best as we can.
We try to do everything we possibly can here to make sure, and it costs us another 25 or 30 cents a package to do food safety. 25 or 30 cents a package doesn't sound like a lot unless you're doing 2 or 3, 4 million packages a year. Then that means a lot of money.
The farming operation has garnered state and national recognition. For Bill and the others here, it's a confirmation of a plan that's working.
We wanted to build this business and to have something to be proud of and say that, you know, we started from nothing and this is what we've got.
Let's give you a little history on Georgia. The state is named after England's King George II. Gainesville, Georgia is often called the chicken capital of the world because of the large number of poultry plants in the area. And Georgia lays claim to being the country's largest producer of the 3 Ps: peanuts, pecans, and peaches.
I'm Sarah Gardner. Still ahead, we'll take you to a farm in Michigan where one family found being successful meant doing a lot of things and doing them well.
I'm Rob Stewart. Still ahead, city folks are saddling up for an Old West trail ride to come see this: wild horses, and to hear the story of how they once populated America's open spaces.
Hi, I'm Paul Robbins, and here's something you may not have known about agriculture. Everybody knows about the health benefits of vitamin C, but what if you're not big on oranges or grapefruit, which is where a lot of people get their vitamin C? Well, maybe you want to think about one of these guys: cute, fuzzy kiwi. Kiwi fruit was first cultivated in China hundreds of years ago and was called by a number of names: the vine pear, the sunny peach, or, this is my favorite, the hairy bush fruit, really. Fast forward to the start of the 20th century, and a New Zealand missionary brought some back to his homeland where they were introduced to the public as Chinese gooseberries. As their popularity spread, they came to the U.S. in the middle of the 20th century, but no one liked the name, so they called them kiwi after the flightless bird that is New Zealand's national symbol. Kiwis are low in calories, they're rich in vitamin C, and they're a great source of fiber. And here's a little bit of culinary kiwi trivia for you. If you peel and mash a kiwi fruit, you can use it as a marinade to tenderize meat.
If you've ever been to a farmer's market, you've seen farmers and ranchers reaching out to consumers by bringing their products directly to market. At one farm in southeast Michigan, reaching out also means bringing consumers to you.
Boys and girls, I need your eyes back here, please.
The folks at Westview Orchards have a name for their type of business: agritourism. It's a growing segment of agriculture as farmers look to diversify and find new streams of income.
Well, about 10 years ago, we could see that our sales on our fruits and vegetables were kind of hitting a plateau, if not decreasing. And people were asking to see farm animals, to actually pick apples, and to get out on the farm.
So Abby Jacobson and her sister, Katrina Schumacher, decided to market their orchard crops directly.
At the heart of our business, we are still a farm. And what we really have here is a farm that families can come and enjoy. You can hear the sounds, that families can pick apples, enjoy the open space, pet animals, and really get a taste of what farm life is like.
Find that apple you'd like, and then you just tip it upside down.
Westview Orchards is one of a growing number of farms operated by women. Thousands of school children visit each year. For most, it's the first time ever outside the city.
This gives people an opportunity to go out and see that, well, a pumpkin actually grows on a vine in a field, and an apple actually grows on a tree. And you'd be surprised how many people don't have that connection or that opportunity. So it is an educational experience for them.
The women decided they needed more than just crops and livestock to grow the business. So a cider mill was added, a bakery, ice cream shop, corn maze, and wagon rides. But those modern attractions aside, farming on this land comes with a lengthy legacy.
Back in the early 1800s, there was a young man who had ambitions to have his own orchard, and he grew up in Ontario County of New York State. And after he served in the War of 1812 and lots of opportunities here in Michigan, he came to Michigan and was looking for land for orchards.
Today, generations later, the family orchards are still producing.
It's something that I think is in our blood, so to speak. We were next generation and always felt that the farm would go on and that we would be the next generation to take over.
Throughout the orchards, there are reminders of an earlier era, 100-year-old apple trees planted by the sister's grandfather, or the one-room schoolhouse where many family members learned to read and write.
My grandfather and his 4 siblings attended that school, and then my mom and her twin and her older brother. This schoolhouse has a special place in my heart.
They may look back with pleasure on the past, but this farm has adapted modern improvements. Drip irrigation systems conserve water. Grasses in the groves reduce soil erosion. Abby, tell me about your weather station here.
We partnered with Michigan State University. It monitors what's called degree days, so then that tells us when to start looking for certain insects.
The weather station provides data that's used in pest management and crop maintenance, environmental approaches that affect food safety as well.
Helps us immensely in minimizing the amount of control materials that we have to put out there, so we're producing a safe product, a healthier product, and we're protecting the environment as well.
You guys all have your bags?
It may not be your usual image of an American farm, but for this family, the heritage of the land and their connection to consumers delivers what the sisters call family food and fun.
But it seems to be something families, especially now, want to come back to and come together, and we become part of their family tradition.
To see that it's a family tradition makes me feel so good that we're providing a service and providing family memories to help make families stronger, to make those connections and memories that they'll have for a lifetime.
Dairy, corn, and soybeans are 1, 2, 3 when it comes to agricultural commodities in Michigan. But the state is also well known for its floriculture industry, bedding plants, potted flowers, and perennials. By the way, Michigan farmers grow much of the spearmint and peppermint used in the United States.
Are you eating more salads these days? Many of us are, to watch our waistline or maybe just eat a little bit more healthy. Well, if you have been, you've likely put some vinegar on those leafy veggies. You know, the French hit the nail on the head when they called vinegar vinaigre, or sour wine. But is vinegar just good Cabernet gone bad?
It's a bit of art and a bit of chemistry. Wine in all those tanks and bottles becomes wine through a process of fermentation. That's where the natural sugars of grapes turn into alcohol. Well, way back, a winemaker discovered that his wine had gone way past its prime, oxidized again, and some errant bacteria had turned the liquid into vinegar. But wine vinegar is only a small part of the story. That's because fermentation can take place with almost any liquid containing some sugar. Grains, hops, roots, rice, apple cider, you name it. There's even vinegar made from sugarcane and raisins. Yeast is added to convert the sugar into alcohol. Next, harmless oxygen-loving bacteria are added to convert the alcohol into acid. Most vinegars contain anywhere from 4 to 8% acidity. Vinegar is a multi-million-dollar business in the U.S. alone, and you have a wealth of choices these days. White distilled vinegar sells the most, followed by cider, red wine, balsamic, and rice wine vinegar. Sure, a lot of it goes into foods like salad dressing and sauces, but vinegar also helps preserve food in things like pickles. And vinegar is used for more than food. People use it to remove stains, clean their windows, or polish furniture. And despite the lack of proof on health claims, many say it helps their arthritis, digestive ailments, lowers cholesterol, and even can clear up your sinuses. Want more?
Vinegar is also great for cuts and scrapes, and if you've got stinky feet, well, listen up. Apple cider vinegar will get rid of foot odor if you soak your feet in it for about 15 minutes. Just don't put the vinegar back in the bottle for your dinner salad. And of course, white vinegar, if you leave it out in a room with paint odor, will get rid of the smell. Well, think about that the next time you take vinegar off the shelf.
Wild horses played a huge role in the development of the plains in the American West, and most of the wild horses in America are gone now, but not at this sanctuary in Northern California. Those are wild horses, and here agritourism teaches city folks about the importance and the beauty of wild horses.
Wild horses roam free at the Wild Horse Sanctuary in Shingletown, California. It's a safe haven and a home to more than 300 rescued Mustangs.
The wild horses, I think, have earned their place in America's history. They've done us a good job. They've carried us west. They helped open up the West, and so we do what we can for as many as we can, and we tell the story.
The journey of saving horses began for rescuer Diane Nelson when she was faced with a life-altering decision.
Over 30 years ago, when the government first started catching wild horses, there were not enough people coming forward or even knew about the program, so at the end of one of our contracts to remove horses from the Modoc National Forest, 80 horses were going to be shot and buried, and that was just more than we could stomach, so we said, we'll take them. We weren't sure what we were going to do with them. We just didn't want them to be killed.
That's when Diane created the Wild Horse Sanctuary, 5,000 fenced-in acres that sprawl across lush, lava-strewn mountains and forest land near Mount Lassen. In 3 decades, Diane has taken in almost 1,000 wild horses to live out their lives in peaceful protection. There are 30,000 wild horses roaming public lands across the western part of the U.S. Each year, the government gathers wild horses to place for adoption.
Sometimes when somebody comes to me with more horses that need a home, or especially if it's large numbers, we really have to think about it. And I go back to the beginning and I say, we didn't have anything but 80 hungry horses to think about. Well, now the sanctuary does have a home, and we've got a support base. We know people care. Our big job has turned out to be telling the story. Come over here, right in front of him, and hold your steed.
Diane is telling that story through opening her gates to tourists for day trips or week-long horse journeys through the hills of Wild Horse Sanctuary.
Come on up here.
Even in the pouring rain, 84-year-old Elmo Butts and his daughter Peggy Benton are horseback, headed on a 3-hour trek to our overnight campsite. All along the way, we stop and watch horses in the wild.
I don't think a lot of people understand the plight of the wild Mustangs, and this is beautiful. They're out here. This is where they live, and I think it's great.
Well, it's just something that most people don't get a chance to see. And I think everybody should get out here and see it. I can't put into words what I feel.
Food's on!
The clouds clear and it's time for a campfire dinner.
There you go. Would you like a camp roll?
And some rest and relaxation. And at dinner time, the wild horses get closer and closer.
This is our cabin here at the Wild Horse Sanctuary, and right outside of our door, look, 2 wild horses. So what will you go back and tell people about this experience?
You know, once in a while you take a little side trip, and it's nice when you're out doing it, and a year or 2 later you don't remember it. This one you'll remember it.
I've had people say that it's as much a sanctuary for people too, though, because in today's hectic world, I think we all would like to be able to have a piece of life like they do, you know, some freedom to be themselves and just enough food. They're not looking for more, they just need enough. And that's what we hope we can give them here.
And that's going to do it for us this time. Thanks for joining us on this edition of America's Heartland.
And remember, there is much more on America's Heartland on our website, including video on today's stories. Just log on to americasheartland.org. We'll see you next time.
To order a copy of this broadcast, visit us online or call 1-888-814-3923. The cost is $14.95 plus shipping.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
And by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.